On a stormy night, the Mystery Inc. gang huddled inside their van, Shaggy nervously clutching Scooby-Doo while Daphne read aloud from a mysterious letter. "Please, help us." The letter pleaded. The Mar-a-Lago resort is overrun with terrifying apparitions. People have vanished. We fear for our lives. The gang exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the plea palpable. Fred, ever the leader, declared, "We have to investigate. We've solved mysteries before, and we can solve this one." The sprawling Mar-a-Lago estate loomed ahead, bathed in an eerie glow as lightning streaked across the sky. The opulence of the resort contrasted sharply with its sinister aura, its golden accents tarnished by decades of neglect. As the gang stepped through the grandiose front doors, the air felt heavy, laden with the whispers of untold secrets. A chandelier flickered above, casting ghostly shadows across the marble floors. They were greeted by Mr. Carlson, the resort's frazzled manager. "Thank goodness you've come," he exclaimed, wringing his hands. "The guests are fleeing, and we're losing everything." The ghost of a former owner, some say, roams the halls, warning of doom and destruction. Last week, a maid vanished in the middle of her shift, leaving behind only her cleaning cart. His desperation was evident, and his story set the gang's nerves on edge. Velma, always the logical one, adjusted her glasses and asked pointedly, "What can you tell us about these apparitions? Are there patterns to their appearances?" Mr. Carlson hesitated before confessing. "They often appear near the Gold Suite, the resort's most luxurious room. And last night, someone heard faint screams from the tower." The gang's curiosity deepened, and Fred suggested they split up to cover more ground. As they began their exploration, strange occurrences escalated. Daphne's elegant shoes clicked against the floor as she and Fred investigated the ballroom, where a piano played itself. Meanwhile, Velma combed through old records in the library, Scooby and Shaggy reluctantly accompanying her. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoed through the corridors. "You'll never find Velma. She's already gone." They turned to see a spectral figure clad in a shimmering suit and golden tie, its presence freezing them in their tracks. As the haunting words echoed through the hall, Velma's companions found themselves paralyzed by fear. Shaggy clutched Scooby tightly, while Daphne and Fred exchanged wide-eyed glances. "Velma's gone?" Daphne's voice quivered, disbelief clouding her usually composed demeanor. Fred stepped forward, his jaw clenched in determination. "We'll find her," he stated firmly, his voice a steadying anchor for the group. The eerie silence of the hallway seemed to close in on them as they set off to investigate. The gang retraced their steps to the library, the last place Velma was seen. The grand room, once a symbol of luxury, now exuded decay, with bookshelves sagging under the weight of dusty tomes and cobwebs adorning the corners. Fred examined the desk where Velma had been working, finding her broken glasses lying on an open book. The book's title, The Golden Curse, immediately caught his attention. "This could be a clue," he mused aloud. Daphne's brow furrowed as she noticed a faint trail of what looked like gold dust leading out of the room. Shaggy and Scooby, less enthused about venturing deeper into the hotel, reluctantly followed the others. The trail of gold dust led them through a series of increasingly lavish but eerily abandoned rooms. Chandeliers sparkled in the dim light, their crystals refracting ghostly glimmers across the walls. Scooby sniffed the air, his nose twitching as he picked up a strange scent. "Rah-rah," he whimpered, tugging at Shaggy's arm. Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the room, extinguishing the few flickering candles. As they pushed open the heavy doors of the Gold Suite, the source of the legend Mr. Carlson had mentioned, an unsettling sight greeted them. The once opulent room was in shambles, with torn curtains and shattered mirrors littering the floor. At its center stood a grand canopy bed, its golden frame tarnished and draped with tattered sheets. On the bed lay a crumpled note, scrawled in a hurried hand. "Beware the tower. Truth lies within." Fred pocketed the note, his mind racing. "We need to find this tower," he said, his voice filled with resolve. The gang searched for Velma and answers intensified. Following the cryptic clue, they climbed a winding staircase that seemed to stretch endlessly into darkness. The air grew colder with each step, their breaths visible in the dim light of Fred's flashlight. Shaggy's nerves got the better of him, and he tripped, sending a cascade of echoes through the stairwell. When they finally reached the top, they were greeted by an ornate golden door. Fred hesitated before pushing it open, revealing a room that defied logic. The walls shimmered with gold, but the space felt suffocating, as if it were alive. And there, in the center, was a familiar figure, Velma, sitting motionless, her eyes closed, as if in a trance. Fred stepped cautiously into the golden chamber, the air thick with an almost tangible tension. Velma sat at the room's center, her form unnaturally still as a faint golden light enveloped her. "Velma!" Daphne's voice broke the silence, but Velma didn't stir. Fred motioned for silence, his eyes scanning the ornate walls adorned with cryptic symbols. The shimmering patterns seemed to pulsate, as if alive, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. Shaggy and Scooby hesitated at the doorway, their instincts screaming at them to turn back. Fred approached Velma cautiously, his footsteps echoing in the chamber. As he got closer, he noticed her lips moving ever so slightly, as though whispering an incantation. "She's in some kind of trance," Fred murmured, bending down to examine her. Daphne's sharp eyes caught movement in the corner of the room. A gilded pedestal stood there, atop it a peculiar device, a golden sphere etched with intricate markings. "Fred, look at this," Daphne called out, her voice steady but tense. The sphere seemed to hum faintly, its vibrations resonating through the room. "It's as if this thing is controlling her," Daphne speculated, her fingers hovering over the mysterious object. Fred nodded, his mind racing. "We need to disrupt whatever's powering this," he said decisively. But before they could act, a deep, resonant voice filled the chamber, sending shivers down their spines. "Fools! You dare interfere with my domain?" The spectral figure they had encountered earlier materialized, its form now more menacing, cloaked in a golden aura. "Velma's mind belongs to me now," it declared, its voice dripping with malice. The gang stood frozen for a moment before Fred stepped forward, his resolve unshaken. "We don't scare that easily," he retorted, his voice firm. Daphne joined him, her confidence unwavering. The ghostly figure laughed mockingly, its presence growing more oppressive. "Then you shall join her," it hissed, raising an ethereal hand. Suddenly, the room began to tremble, and the golden light intensified. Scooby yelped and dove behind Shaggy, who clung to him for dear life. "Like, this is way above our pay grade," Shaggy exclaimed, his knees shaking. As the gang struggled to maintain their footing, Fred's eyes locked onto a pattern on the floor beneath Velma's chair. "The markings!" he shouted over the growing cacophony. "They're connected to the sphere." Daphne's quick thinking led her to grab a heavy candlestick from a nearby table. With a swift motion, she struck the golden sphere, sending it crashing to the floor. The chamber's light dimmed instantly, and the spectral figure let out an anguished wail before dissipating into nothingness. Velma's eyes fluttered open, her voice weak but steady. "What happened?" she asked as Fred helped her to her feet. The gang breathed a collective sigh of relief, but the mystery was far from over. The golden chamber's oppressive silence returned, broken only by the gang's hurried breaths. Velma leaned heavily on Fred as they guided her toward the staircase. That sphere," she murmured, her voice hoarse. It was channeling something ancient. Daphne, clutching the shattered remnants of the device, examined it closely. "This wasn't just a machine," she said, her brow furrowing. "These symbols are occult in origin, almost like a map." Fred's jaw tightened. A map to what? He asked, though he feared the answer. Back in the library, the gang regrouped. Velma, regaining her composure, spread out the fragments of the sphere on a nearby desk. These markings, she began, her fingers tracing the faint etchings, referenced the legend of the Golden Curse. It's said to trap those who seek power within their own desires. Daphne tilted her head thoughtfully. But how does that connect to the ghost and this hotel? Shaggy, munching on a hastily assembled sandwich, muttered nervously, "Maybe it's time to leave this place and let the ghosts have it." "Not yet," Fred said firmly. "We're close to uncovering the truth." Velma nodded in agreement. The Golden Suite and that sphere are linked, but there's more. The phrase on the note, "Truth lies within the tower," is key. She flipped through an old journal she'd found earlier. Its brittle pages were filled with accounts of strange happenings at Mar-a-Lago, dating back decades. "Look here," Velma pointed, her excitement growing. A former owner vanished after building a secret vault beneath the tower. Rumors say it's where he hid something valuable or dangerous. As the gang absorbed this information, a low rumble echoed through the walls. Like, did anyone else feel that? Shaggy exclaimed, clutching Scooby, who whimpered in agreement. Velma glanced at the journal, then at the floor. The vault might be directly below us, she realized. Fred's determination kicked in. "Let's find the entrance," he said, grabbing a flashlight. Daphne, ever resourceful, retrieved a crowbar from a maintenance closet. "If it's hidden, we'll uncover it," she declared, her confidence bolstering the group's resolve. Fred pushed against the heavy iron door, its hinges groaning in protest as it swung open to reveal a cavernous vault. The room glimmered faintly, its walls lined with golden panels etched with more of the strange symbols. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal holding a massive tome, its cover bound in what appeared to be gold leaf. Velma gasped softly. "This must be the source," she murmured, stepping closer, her fingers itching to examine the book. But as the gang ventured inside, a chilling breeze swept through, extinguishing their flashlights. "Zoinks!" Shaggy yelped, his voice echoing in the oppressive darkness. Scooby's barks were muffled as he cowered behind his friend. Daphne fumbled with her lighter, its small flame casting an eerie glow over the room. The shadows seemed to move, twisting unnaturally. Fred's voice cut through the tension. "Stay together. Whatever's here doesn't want us to find this book." Velma's hands trembled as she reached for the tome. The moment her fingers touched it, the symbols on the walls began to glow, illuminating the vault in a blinding golden light. The ghostly figure materialized once more, its form now more defined. It wore a crown of gold, and its eyes burned with an unnatural fire. "You should have left," it intoned, its voice reverberating through the vault. "This power is not meant for mortals." Velma stood her ground, clutching the book. "We're not here for power," she retorted. "We're here to uncover the truth." The figure's laughter was cold and hollow. "Then the truth shall consume you," it hissed, raising a spectral hand. The room quaked violently, the golden panels beginning to crack and crumble. Fred sprang into action, pulling Daphne and Velma back as chunks of the ceiling began to fall. "We need to get out of here," he shouted. Shaggy and Scooby were already halfway up the staircase, shouting for the others to hurry. Velma clutched the book tightly as they fled, her mind racing. "The ghost, it's protecting something," she said breathlessly. "This isn't just about the curse. It's about whoever's behind it." Fred nodded grimly as they emerged into the library, slamming the panels shut behind them. The faint sound of the ghost's laughter lingered in the air, sending chills down their spines. The gang regrouped, their nerves frayed, but their determination intact. Velma spread the book out on the library table, its golden pages shimmering under the dim light. "This isn't just a history," she said, flipping through its ornate script. "It's a guide away to harness the curse and control its power." Daphne frowned, her gaze fixed on the book. "Whoever created this knew exactly what they were doing," she said. "But why leave it here, of all places?" Fred's eyes narrowed. "Because someone wanted it found," he said. "And we're going to figure out who." The room fell silent as the gang prepared for their next move. The stakes higher than ever. The gang's collective unease hung in the air as they pored over the golden tome. Velma traced the intricate symbols with her fingertips, her brow furrowed in concentration. "These incantations," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "are designed to bind the curse to a single host." Daphne's eyes widened. "That's why the ghost kept saying it wasn't meant for mortals. It's not just a power source. It's a trap." Fred's expression hardened. "Then we're going to spring that trap and put an end to this." As they strategized, the lights in the library flickered ominously. Scooby's ears perked up, and he let out a low growl. Shaggy clutched the dog tightly. "Like, I'm pretty sure we've overstayed our welcome," he muttered. Suddenly, the ghost reappeared, its golden aura filling the room with an almost blinding light. "You will not leave," it declared, its voice shaking the very walls. The gang braced themselves, their determination unwavering despite the terror gripping their hearts. Fred grabbed the tome, flipping to the final page where an intricate ritual was outlined. "Velma, what do we need to do?" he asked urgently. Velma scanned the instructions, her mind racing. "We have to return to the golden chamber," she said. "The symbols on the floor, they're part of the ritual. But someone has to channel the curse back into the sphere." The words hung heavy in the air as they all exchanged worried glances. "I'll do it," Fred said firmly, his leadership shining through. "No," Velma countered. "It has to be me. I'm the one who disturbed it." The gang hurried back to the golden chamber, dodging falling debris as the ghost's rage shook the hotel. The room was even more unstable than before, its golden walls cracking as the curse's power surged. Velma stepped into the center of the symbols, clutching the sphere. "You have to recite the incantation," she told Fred and Daphne, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. As Fred began chanting, the symbols on the floor lit up, their golden glow intensifying. The ghost let out a deafening roar, its form twisting violently as the ritual took hold. In a blinding flash of light, the sphere absorbed the curse, its hum dying down to a faint vibration. The ghost vanished with one final anguished wail, leaving the room eerily silent. Velma collapsed to her knees, the sphere still in her hands. Fred and Daphne rushed to her side, helping her to her feet. "It's over," Velma said weakly, her relief palpable. Shaggy and Scooby peeked cautiously from the doorway, their expressions a mix of terror and disbelief. "Like, can we never do that again?" Shaggy quipped, earning a weak laugh from the group. As they exited the now dormant hotel, the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, signaling the end of their harrowing night.